PlayStation just announced their new DualSense Edge controller for the PlayStation 5, and it's the most customizable controller ever made. But does it stack up against the Xbox Elite controller? You'll have to decide that for yourself at the end of this video. Let's get right into it. First things first, giving credit where credit is due. The original DualSense was a game changer. Of all the things Sony showed off at the launch of the PS5, only a few impressed us more than that controller. It wasn't just an improvement over its predecessor, the PlayStation 4's DualShock 4, but it also has impressive haptics throughout, including pressure-sensitive triggers. During rainy segments in games like Housemarque's action roguelike Returnal, you could literally feel the controller rumble with the cadence of the rainfall. When you went to swing down the avenues of New York City as Miles Morales, you could feel the triggers tense up as you approached the apex. And some people recommended getting Cyberpunk 2077 on PS5 over Xbox Series XS solely because of the DualSense's haptic capabilities. Sony clearly put in a lot of work to make the console experience more immersive than ever before, and we were all in for it. But just like all things, the DualSense wasn't perfect. Drift issues were reported shortly after the PS5's release. Essentially, this is when the thumbsticks act on their own without any player input, and it was a pain to get it repaired too. Things were going south pretty fast for Sony, so them putting out a new controller doesn't come as a shock to us. The Edge's brief trailer made a point of showing us a cross-section of the controller's thumbsticks. You already know what they were getting at. According to Sony, you'll be able to completely replace the stick modules, which should eliminate any lingering controller drift issues, and swap out stick caps and rear buttons. Things are finally looking up for PS5 owners. The Edge controller was unveiled as part of the opening ceremonies for the Gamescom showcase event in Cologne, Germany. The Tokyo-based company has an increasing line of peripherals. 3 headsets and 2 monitors were included in the company's first PC gaming gear lineup, which was introduced earlier this year under the name InZone. Now, let's take a deeper look at the Edge's main selling point, customization. The first thing anyone notices about the Edge is that the new front cover above the joysticks is now painted in matte black finish, covered by Sony's signature PlayStation logos in a glossy finish and displayed in a grid pattern. This is the simplest way to tell if a DualSense controller is the Edge variant or not. But if we're being real here, this is probably the least impressive of the Edge's new features. Sony is marketing its new controller as the first ever high-performance, ultra-customizable controller for the PS5. One of the most notable features of the controller is the addition of ultra-customizable controls, which allows users to remap or deactivate button inputs on all control surfaces, as well as change the stick sensitivity and dead zones at will. Users can also adjust the travel distance of each trigger to achieve faster response times. A lot of this sounds like the freedom that a PC user would brag about, calling it the reason why PCs are just better than consoles. Customizable keycaps on a keyboard, manually tweaking cursor sensitivity. Seems like Sony is bringing the whole shebang right in between the PS5 owners' palms. After years of struggle, these guys might finally get the last laugh. Really, just how many new things did Sony manage to cram inside this controller? There's a new control profile feature that allows users to save multiple profiles based on their needs and the game they're playing. In addition, a dedicated FN button has been added to the Edge, allowing users to instantly swap control profiles in-game, as well as perform other actions, such as adjusting game volume, checking chat, and more. Remember those stick caps we were just talking about? Well, in addition to just being easier to repair, users can now juggle between standard, high dome, and low dome caps, or maybe go extra hardcore and play without the caps if they want a challenge. Sony also made the physical stick modules replicable when needed, which can be handy if your stick starts to bug out and you need to replace them. Thank you for listening to us, Sony. We finally feel visible and seen. And it's not just about what's new with the Edge. Sony's launch of the Edge controller also signals the return of PlayStation controller back buttons. Back in the day, Sony began offering back buttons for the PS4 DualShock controller as an add-on component. However, when the PS5 was released, Sony, for some reason, thought it was a good idea to not include them in the original DualSense controller. But now, Sony is back in business, introducing those buttons as a standard feature on the Edge. You can also equip the back buttons with half-dome buttons or levers depending on the user's preference. So it's not just a return, but yet another improvement. The Edge, of course, shared a lot of features with its older brother. Just like the DualSense controller, you won't be missing out on haptic feedback, adaptive triggers, a built-in microphone, or motion controllers here. The Edge is essentially just a beefed-up version of the current DualSense controller. Sony will reveal the release date and other details in the coming months, so at the very least, we should know more by early 2023. However, we believe the Edge will not exactly replace Sony's existing DualSense controller, controller. Instead, the Edge will just be a more expensive optional upgrade to the original model. Now, moving on to other news. First off, Sony just got hit with a huge lawsuit. A consumer rights advocacy group has filed a lawsuit against Sony for charging a 30% markup fee on all digital purchases made through the PlayStation Store. This is essentially a class action lawsuit seeking to distribute billions of dollars to PlayStation UK Store users since August 2016. According to Sky News, the lawsuit was filed on August 19th with the Competition Appeal Tribunal. One of the lawyers stated that Sony dominates the digital distribution of PlayStation games and in-game content. It has deployed an anti-competitive strategy which has resulted in excessive prices to customers that are out of all proportion to the cost of Sony providing its services. The argument here is that Sony has a near monopoly on the sale of digital games, particularly PlayStation games, and so it shouldn't be using that power to enforce unreasonable prices on consumers. Sony is not the only platform that requires a 30% cut. With the notable exception of the Epic Game Store, most major storefronts do. We'll have to wait and see if the courts agree that the PlayStation ecosystem is a monopoly, and if so, how that affects other walled gardens like app stores or Steam. But let's level with you, this isn't an isolated issue. According to the plaintiffs, gaming is the largest entertainment industry in the UK, and Sony is harming consumers who can't even afford their games. The lawsuit was filed by Alex Neil, a consumer rights advocate who stated that we are amid a cost of living crisis and that the consumer purse is being squeezed tighter than ever before. While we understand how inflation makes it difficult for players to buy more games, we're not sure we'd lump gaming in with a cost of living crisis. While rent is a necessity, it is possible to not play God of War Ragnarok at launch. The most recent major lawsuit was filed by Epic Games against Apple, and that too was about the 30% commissions. Apple removed Fortnite from its App Store after its publisher attempted to implement its payment method, bypassing the store's ability to collect 30% of the game's microtransactions. The court ruled that Apple could not require microtransactions to be processed through the App Store, but it also stated that Apple was not in violation of antitrust law. All in all, the case was a stalemate, and for Sony, they might be able to get away with this too once their case is moved to the UK. Lastly, a new VR headset from Sony is on the way too. Sony has announced that its next console-based VR system will be available in early 2023. The PSVR 2 will have softer ergonomics as well as a live streaming feature and cinematic mode. Their blog post included a photo of the VR2 headset, which the company first unveiled in February. It looks like the new design of the device is built to better fit the PS5's design aesthetics. The PlayStation blog announced last month that the device would feature a new setup running on 4000 by 2040 resolution, as well as a see-through mode safety feature to keep players from wandering too far off in the virtual field. We're hoping this will also unlock AR potential in the headset. That'll make this deal extra sweet. That's a wrap for this video. Are you thinking about bagging an Edge controller for yourself? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.